And then from there, and which is, by the way, one of the things that Jack Dorsey had discussed when he did my podcast way back in the day, when there was all these Twitter controversies about people like my friend Morgan Murphy, or Megan Murphy. I have a friend Morgan Murphy too, but Megan Murphy, the writer who was kicked off for saying, "But a man is never a woman." That's all it took. Yeah. She was banned for life. And Megan's a wonderful person. She's not mean. She's not terrible.
Yeah,
she's
we're friends.
Kind
She's
brilliant.
a sweetie.
I love her.
Yeah.
And, I didn't know anything about her. I just knew that story. And I'm like, that story is fucking crazy. And I was trying to bring it up to them, and they said there was other things involved, and she had done other things. And it turns out, no, that wasn't true at all. That was basically it. There was a hard-lined ideological wall that we ran up against. And I think if he didn't buy it and expose the government's involvement in censoring people that were distributing true information during COVID, getting rid of people, the Jay Bhattacharya stuff and what they've tried to do with some of these doctors, Robert Malone, these doctors that were attached to that whole thing. There was a concerted effort, and it was being done through social media. I don't think we'd be in the same place right now if he hadn't bought in Twitter. Oh. If he hadn't purchased Twitter, I genuinely think people, they're blinded by this thing that he helped Trump get into office. Fuck that guy. And he's a billionaire. Fuck that guy. But he literally might have changed the course of civilization, or at least partially righted the ship for a bit.
Yeah, I think we dodged a bullet. And the problem is that what has come about as a result of dodging that bullet is very mixed. And so it doesn't feel like a vindication. But as compared to what would have happened in the last election, I think there's no question Elon deserves a tremendous amount of credit for helping us avert a disaster. But let's go back to your point about AI.
Yeah, he wants to make a better version of AI.
He thinks the only remedy for bad AI is good AI, and right. I don't disagree with him about this.
Because it seems to be like the race is on, you can run or not. Like everyone's running full clip. What are you going to do?
Right. So if you pause, what you're doing is you're putting whoever didn't pause ahead. That doesn't work.
Right.
Game theoretically. Here's the problem. So on the one hand, I think he's right. The only thing that stands to help us is good AI under the control of somebody who has built it with this concern in mind. The problem is, he's one guy and he's got his biases, and there's no council of elders to go to on this. Like I said, this is biology, this isn't tech, and we, because it's made of tech, we continue to default to that metaphor.
Right.
But take a look at what he has introduced with the companions, the Grok companions. Have you?
Companions? What do you mean?
Oh, you don't know about this? Utterly terrifying. He has introduced a set of kind of anime-like personas that basically can be your interface to the AI. And of course, the primary one, the one that you default to, is a kind of sexy, young, underdressed creature.
By default?
Yeah.
Wait a minute. The first one, you get option?
Hey, there she is.
I guess she's kind of sexy if you're autistic.
You're into that sort of... Well, exactly. If you laugh...
Which is part of the problem.
It is part of the problem. But here's the problem, really. Okay? First of all, that is going to function like crack for a great many adults who don't know to be concerned about it.
Right.
But what it's really going to do is it is going to alter an entire generation, right? It may not be, Musk's version of it, but the problem is that these things actually interact on a sexual channel, and they have limits that are programmed into them. There are certain things they will do, certain things they won't do. But if you think about, what it was like to be a 12-year-old boy, right, and you have access to something that looks an awful lot like a girl, and it likes you and takes you seriously and, is strangely wise, whatever it is, I don't see what the thing is that is going to prevent that innovation from remaking human sexuality. right? It will take time, but those for whom that is their experience will be altered by it permanently. What's more, of course, it is non-judgmental about things like homosexuality, right? Because it would have to be. What that means, let's say that you're a boy and you're a little uncomfortable with girls because that's a stage you go through as a heterosexual boy. But the AI that you're interacting with, that you default to because you're a boy who hangs out with boys, which is often what boys do, is perfectly willing to reinforce, your exploration, your sexual exploration, right? It could alter your sexuality very easily. And
Yeah. Let me ask you this about that.
Yeah.
Because you are actually an evolutionary biologist.
that is true.
If you have a question about things like that, that's the kind of guy you'd ask. What do you think was going on when people were doing that a lot? Because throughout a lot of history,
Yeah.
there's a lot of pederasty going on.
Mm-hmm.
Throughout a lot of history.
Yeah.
And it's very strange. And, when people talk about it, you forgive great people who were clearly involved in sexual relationships with young boys. And you treat their work just as their work by a person who lived thousands of years ago who was involved in sexually molesting children on a regular basis. And not only that, it was probably a ubiquitous part of their society. It was probably a ubiquitous part of every society. And this brings me to my good friend Evan Hafer, who's Green Beret and spent a lot of time in Afghanistan. And one of the things that he was telling me, he told me some stories about Afghanistan. We were on a trip once, and we spent like an hour and a half outside where he told me some stories about what his first encounters with these young boys that get treated as sex toys by these grown men there, that he thought it was a driver who was driving with his son, thought it was a guy working with his son. And he said, "Oh, that's cool, man. He takes his kid to work with him." And the guy explained, no, that's his boyfriend. That's not his kid. That he owns that boy. And he's like, "What?" And he said they would have parades where the guy who had the most boys with him was like, it was like a man with like a bunch of hot girls and a music video behind him.